famous fire engine. When your grandfather was young, he and his friends thought that Hercules was one of the finest fire engines ever built. Then, nobody had ever heard of a fire truck. It wasn't so long ago either. Today, Hercules is in a museum. Had it not been for a wonderful act of courage and a little luck, he never would have won such a fine place. This is how it happened. The day Hercules came from the factory, the whole town turned out, and the mayor made a long speech and proudly referred to Hercules as the most modern, the most up-to-date fire engine in the world. It was a proud day for Hercules. His brass gleamed, his safety valve danced, and the quivering needle on the steam gauge showed how strong he was. Hercules was drawn by 3 horses, 1 black, 1 white, and 1 dapple gray, and the people of the town presented him with a mascot, a spotted coach dog to run with him to the fires. Hercules had a crew of 3, Hokey, Pokey, and Smokey. Hokey was the fireman. He kept steam in the big boiler. Pokey was an engineer. He watched the gauges and connected the hoses to the hydrants. And Smokey sat on the front seat and drove the horses. They made a great team. People used to hang around the firehouse for hours on end for the chance to hear the alarm ring. It was exciting to see the horses leap towards their harnesses when the gong struck. It was even more exciting to see them in full flight through town. It was the most exciting of all to see how quickly they put out a fire. 1 blast of water from Hercules' hose and it was all over. Anyhow, that's how it was in the beginning. The trouble was that time was passing and new things were being invented. There was a strange, noisy vehicle, the automobile. People called it the horseless carriage. It was almost too much for the horses. What counts above everything else is getting the fire out first. For there came a day when Hercules, though he rolled as fast as ever, arrived too late. The fire was out. It had been put out by a new kind of fire engine, an engine that wasn't pulled by horses at all. Life was unbearable after that. The alderman and the mayor solemnly decided that Hercules was obsolete. He was too old, too slow, so they retired him. From then on, nothing seemed to happen. The alarm never sounded. The horses were sold, the black one to the riding academy, the dapple gray to the junk dealer, and the white one to the police force. And Hercules grew old like a soldier, pining for a smell of gunpowder. But Hokey, Pokey, and Smokey, because they loved the firehouse, stayed on. Wait and see, said Smokey. Someday there's going to be a fire, the worst fire this city has ever seen, and we'll be there with Hercules. There's things that Hercules and horses can do that trucks can't do. That day came sooner than even Smokey had dared to hope. Their own alarm suddenly sounded. The cobwebs flew in all directions. It's a general alarm, yelled Smokey. The city hall. We've got to do something. However, there were no horses to pull Hercules, but he knew what to do. He began to ring his brass bell. When the old black horse heard the familiar clang, he shot like a bolt from under the gentleman rider and tore to the firehouse. The dapple gray abandoned his junk wagon, and the white horse just brought his new master right in with him. Here they come, yelled Pokey, like this was old times. And there they go. It was a good thing they started, and before long they found out why. One after another, all the fire trucks, which weren't so dependable in those days, had come to grief. First, they passed hose number 4. Number 4's crew was cranking their heads off, but the engine wouldn't start. We can use that hose, yelled Hokey. They stopped only long enough to pick it up. Then they overtook hook and ladder number 1. Number 1 had a blown tire, and then the spare and the crew were sweating to pump it up. Never mind that, Smokey bellowed. Get aboard with the ladder. Emergency truck number 3 was hopelessly stuck in a muddy ditch. Get aboard, Pokey yelled to the dumbfounded crew, and bring your life nets. On the steep hill near the city hall, they heaved past chemical number 2. It just didn't have the power to get up the slope. Hercules could do things that no fire truck could ever hope to do. The bridge was out, but Hercules never stopped. And there they go. This was the worst fire he had ever seen. The heat was so scorching that Pokey had to unharness the horses and lead them away. If they were to save the city hall, Hercules had to pump water as he had never pumped before. While Hokey fed coal under the boiler, Pokey threw himself into the safety valve and Hercules pumped until he was blue in the face. Everyone was saved, including the mayor and the aldermen, with no hurt except for their dignity. And that was how Hercules got into the museum.